everyone. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Justice Cafe. Today we have joining with us Ashley First, and this is the first time an interview, I should say, a discussion over coffee has happened from a federal halfway house. Ashley right now is in a federal halfway house. We met prior to her going into prison through a support group, and I've kind of been there with her along the way the entire time. So, Ash, why don't you tell a little bit about your story, where you're at?
Sure. Yeah. So I have been in this halfway house since June of last year. I had previously done almost a year at Alderson Federal Prison Camp. My crime was white collar. It was one count of wire fraud, and I was sentenced to 27 months. So I self-surrendered to Alderson on June 25th, 2019. And then I ended up being released because of a couple of reasons. I filed a motion with my judge and my court to be released to a halfway house for a certain period of time and then go on home confinement. But so I was released early because of that, but also because of the CARES Act. And I met the criteria to be released early for the CARES Act. So I got here June 4th of 2020. So I've been here since then, and I'm about to go on home confinement, hopefully on March 5th, but we'll see what happens with that. And then I'll be out of, the BOP system at the end of May. On May 25th is my release date. So, I've just been working. I do digital marketing and social media marketing for a company based in Colorado out here. So I'm just trying to get my life back together. I lost everything. I'm divorced. I lost my husband. I lost, family. I lost friends. So I'm just trying to really just put one foot in front of the other at a time. And I have good days and I have bad days. So I'm grateful for people like you and your group because there are some days where I don't know what I would have done without you when I was in prison and being here.
Yeah. So. How was it for you? I remember I flew out to meet with you, to bring you to Alderson, and I went with you. And that was the first time I had ever seen Alderson. And it's such a huge campus, but looking at it, I'm like, wow, I remember us both standing there saying, it kind of looks like a college because it's just so big. And
it literally does. Yeah. Like there's no fence. There's literally like a retractable gate that goes up and down. You could just walk on out if you wanted to. And the women initially they did live in basically what looked like dorms. They're we call them cottages. So there were 14 different cottages and they looked like dorms on the inside. You had a door that shut, you had, a bathroom. Some of them bathrooms had bathtubs in them. When Martha Stewart was there, that was the last time they lived in the cottages because they found asbestos in there. So they ended up building two basically long units at the top of the hill, which they called Hallelujah Hill. So there was A unit and B unit, and then there were 4 ranges within each unit, and each range could hold anywhere between 120 to 140 women, depending if the bus stop was full or not.
So how many women were there when you were there? Sorry.
When I first got there were close to 1,000, I think. But then by the time I left in June, I think the count was down to 800 something. So many women were being released because of the CARES Act. Yeah. And I think now it's down to 600. So
Danbury only has 39 women. When I was there was 216, and there's 39 now.
Yeah.
But that transition from going from home, and you didn't just go right to prison. You were in a pre-sentence release for a while. Monitored, and then you transitioned into prison, and then you had to transition into halfway house. And now you're transitioning again into your own house now. But that transition, that's so detrimental to your mental health. How did you handle all of those transitions?
The halfway house has really honestly been the hardest part for me because, you're still technically in prison, but you're in the real world. So, of course they encourage you to go out and get a job, but when you have a job, they call to verify you're at work every day. So, they're always checking up on you. And if, for some reason, let's say your supervisor doesn't answer, they continue to call until your supervisor answers, or they'll call you, interrupt your workday to get, their supervisor to call them. You can even get written up, like if your supervisor never calls to verify you're at work. So, I can't hold any medication on me. I can't even like ibuprofen. I take blood pressure medication. All that has to be in security, it's just crazy to me because in prison I could carry all of that stuff on me. I could carry ibuprofen. I could carry my blood pressure medicine. And it's like, I'm 37 years old. I know how to take my medication.
Right.
So I'm not going to sell my blood pressure pills. And I think just honestly, the mental just toll of always, they do head counts every hour. So there's always someone in your room. There's anywhere up to six females. This facility is co-ed. So there's male and females here. There's up to 6 females in a room and you're like on top of each other all the time. The same goes for the guys' rooms. It's just
that's harder if you're coming from a camp. I remember for me, the same thing. The halfway house was horrible. It was the hardest part of my journey. And
right.
Is because there's so many restrictions. If you're in community level and you're going to a camp, you aren't used to those restrictions at all.
Right. No,
so
not at all.
Backwards, not forward.
Yeah. Like it really did feel, I was like, I feel like I'm being treated more like a criminal now than I was when I was in actual prison. Like in prison, I could walk in and out of the unit and do whatever I wanted basically during the day. I could go sunbathe outside. It's just, here I can't go past like the cement block out back. I have to call anytime I move around. It's definitely way more restrictive and it's taken a lot for me to get used to. And, I understand that I'm still technically in prison. I get that. That is not lost on me, but the frustrating part to me about the halfway house is that I have my life together really when it comes down to it. I have a stable job, I have a car, I have car insurance, I have a place to live. I'm about to go on home confinement. I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I have clean UAs all the time. And it's like, it feels like this environment does everything it can to continue to push you back down, to find small things to get you in trouble for. I never got in trouble once when I was in prison. I've gotten in trouble 3 times since I've been here. Yeah. And, I'm not saying maybe like I was in the wrong for some of it. But it's just crazy. And, there's certain parts of this whole process where the people you encounter, they just basically look at you and say, oh, well, you're a white collar criminal. So you're obviously narcissistic. You're obviously selfish. And you're never going to change your criminal way of thinking because you're just a selfish person. And
you've had that issue with staff, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like I have had a staff member, a high ranking staff member say to me, I don't like white collar criminals because you're selfish, you're narcissistic, you're incapable of changing your criminal way of thinking. And you're even worse because you're smart. So you'll do whatever you can to get what you want. And I'm like, it's like looking at all drug addicts the same way. Like we are not all white collar criminals are the same.
And I think that the thing about it is for you, from day one, I've known you for quite a long time now. You've always taken responsibility, accountability. You have owned up your part of anything that you've done wrong. And you really have worked on yourself. I've seen such a transformation. You've worked on yourself and did the programs in prison. And then CARES Act rewards you for doing all of that. And then you are put backwards in a system that is supposed to be helping you move forward. And I felt the same way. I felt like I was held down and was not able to move forward. I was in a stuck position when I was supposed to be halfway home. And that's not the case. I didn't
it's like I feel like this system targets people who've actually gotten out and done something right away. Like I got a job after being here a week and a half. It was a Goodwill, but I just wanted a job. Like, and I'm not above working in a Goodwill. Like, I don't care. I just wanted a job. Like, I had to start somewhere because I was completely starting from rock bottom.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, as they see people progress and get better and, achieve milestones, it's like they look for little things to push you back down, to remind you that you're a criminal, that you're always going to be a criminal. Yeah. And it's not right. It's not fair. And something needs to change. It's just unacceptable.
I was telling you my last podcast, which I don't think you've seen yet, I talked a little bit about how when you have this felony on your back, you are a felon for life. There is no aspiration or nothing you can work toward to someday not be a felon. You will always have that. And I think when you're dealing with professional staff in a halfway house, they should be equipped to help you move forward away from that. And
there's nothing, at least in this place I'm in now, there are no programs. There is nothing. And I was very lucky because I do have a very good education and I did have a career before I got in trouble. So, I came out and I knew how to navigate the job market. I knew how to find a job. I knew how to write my resume to kind of cover the lapse in employment that I had. Yeah. But, there's a lot of people that don't have that luxury, that don't know how to do it. And I have seen nothing from this place that helps people do that. There's nothing that, says, oh, here, let me sit down with you for 20 minutes and show you how to look on Indeed or on, wherever to find a job.
Let me ask you.
And then they wonder why people are sitting here getting high, It's like, you're not doing anything to help them. Yeah. Like you're not doing anything to help them.
So when you got there, you had nothing, no clothing with you. You had nothing but what you came from prison. How did you establish getting clothes and all of those things that you need to go out into the real world?
Yeah. So I was lucky. I had a good relationship with my ex-husband. So I flew back here from Alderson because I was not going to take a bus for God knows how many hours. So, which I actually had to pay for. So if you're not going to take a bus or have someone come pick you up from prison, any other means of transportation, you have to pay for yourself. So I had to pay for a plane ticket back here, which was fine because it meant I was leaving the state of West Virginia. So, but my ex-husband picked me up from the airport and, he brought me the stuff that I would need for the time being just to get by for the next couple weeks until I could figure out where I was going to be working. And all of my stuff was in a storage unit because we had divorced and he had moved into a house of his own. So all my stuff was in a storage unit. So this place did let me go and, get the clothes that I would need, to go on job interviews.
What if you didn't have that? What if you didn't have a good relationship with your ex-husband, like some of the women there? What do they?
I think that there are some programs like Dress for Success, and Colorado itself has some specific programs where you can, go and apply for, financial assistance. But that's another thing. It's like, because we're in the federal system, we're not eligible for a lot of that stuff. It's just state level. So it's like, okay, so just because I'm in the federal system, I just have to be naked. Like I don't have any opportunities for education or, which is great that this state has, such a robust system to help ex-offenders. There's a big Defy program out here, that does a lot for the men and women that are in the state facilities, helps them, learn how to be entrepreneurs and provides them with resources and stuff when they get out. But, I found that I had to go online and search that myself. Like I felt like if I asked someone here, they would be like, well, just go online and search. Like they don't have things printed out that they can give you, to help you get back on your feet. It's just like, well, you're an adult, deal with it. Well,
and if you have no
computer, I'm trying to navigate prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just got out of prison and, the first time I went to Walmart, and I wasn't even in prison for that long compared to a lot of the women I've come across. And the first time I went to Walmart, I had an anxiety attack because I felt like everyone was staring at me because I felt like uncomfortable in the clothes I was wearing, you know?
Right,
so, and again, I wasn't even in for that long,
yeah.
just almost a year.
And making choices when you come home
So I can't even
possible.
Yeah.
Choices.
I mean, I'll never forget. The day I left Alderson, there was a woman leaving who had been there for 20 years, and she only got 6 months in a halfway house. How are you going to only give someone 6 months that has spent 20 years of their life behind the fence? How are you only going to give them 6 months to get back on their feet, to navigate the technology and all the things that have changed? I mean, she showed me her license and she looked like a completely different person. Like you wouldn't have even known it was the same person.
Wow. And then obviously her friend group, everything.
20 years.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. 20 years and you're expected to learn how to start your life over in 6 months.
Yeah.
Like we used to joke in prison, it's a setup. Like it literally feels like a setup for failure at every turn.
Yeah. And the mental health piece to it. I mean, you're transitioning and your mental health is just being beat down. It's not being uplifted at all.
Yeah. And I have really struggled.
Social workers in the halfway house to help with that?
There is a therapist, but you have to get it approved by the BOP to get treatment, which, I had been struggling for a few months. I have a lot of other stressors on me besides just being in a halfway house.
Right.
I have attorney issues, I have bankruptcy issues, I have tax issues. And, I was not coping well. So I went to my case manager and asked if there was a therapy program that I could get into, and there is, but you have to go through all the paperwork with the BOP, and then you have to do an interview with the doctor with the BOP for them to verify that you do actually need therapy.
Yeah.
And
you would
thankfully,
think everyone at the halfway house does need therapy. Everyone needs therapy.
Everyone does.
So you would think a better way might be to have a therapist coming regularly, visiting the halfway house, making appointments to see you and everybody in there at different points to try and work on cognitive, behavioral things, anxiety, PTSD, stressors, how to navigate the world again. Like you said, bankruptcy issues, financial issues are huge. I mean, that's the number one thing today is people with financial issues have such bad mental health, and there's nothing like that. So you're just kind of stuck there, and you have a case manager. How many people oversee you?
So there's my case manager, and there's 4 case managers. I actually love my case manager. I feel like I can go to her if I have an issue. She's never once judged me. She's never once, talked down to me. I feel like last night I went to her because I was having a meltdown about something, and, she sat there and talked to me for 20 minutes. So, all the case managers here are very good. For the most part, I think they really do try to help you if you show you want to take the initiative to help yourself, because they are overloaded. There's only 4 of them, and there's 65 people, I think, here right now, plus another 60 some on home confinement. So, 4 case managers, 120 people, that's 30 people per case manager. That's a lot.
People starting their lives over to help.
Life
over.
Yeah. And, I'm sure the same thing when you went to Danbury. When I got to Alderson, you get appointments with every department. So I had a psych appointment when I got there. I went to HSU, I went to commissary, I did all that stuff. I feel like, especially the mental health aspect should be, you should have to meet with a therapist as soon as you get out of prison and come to a halfway house.
Oh, absolutely. I know in Danbury, one of my best friends was the therapist. I'd go to him every day, the psychologist, and I'd knock on his door and have a conversation. It was much needed. And when I got home, it was just the halfway house did not have anything. Nothing. They had no resources. I remember getting in trouble in the halfway house because I was teaching the other women how to use Word and Excel. They had one computer in the basement.
Yeah.
And there was some of the women that didn't have any any computer skills. So I said, oh, well, we can do a
Yeah.
class. I'll teach you Word and Excel. And I was not allowed to do that. And that to me was
They
astounding.
just built a computer lab before I got here. So there's 3 computers up on the second floor. But, I have my laptop here. I'm talking to you on my laptop. I had to get it approved by the program director, but they will let you have, laptops or tablets as long as, you have a justifiable reason for having it. Sometimes I work from here. So that's why I was able to have my laptop. But
that's a nice
even
change.
then,
It's a nice change
Yeah.
because when I was in the halfway house, that was not, we weren't even allowed to have smartphones. We had to have the flip phone and they would break the camera because we weren't allowed to have cameras. Although we were allowed to have cars, the federal. I was in a federal and state halfway house, and the federal were allowed to have cars with no smartphones, but the state women could have a smartphone with no car. So in the same halfway house, half the women had smartphones with no cars. The other, it was
we can have smartphones unless you're a sex offender. Then you cannot have a phone with access to the internet, obviously.
Makes sense. Yes.
So that is very nice that they will let you have a smartphone and have a laptop or a tablet. It just makes it easier to re-enter, to figure out what's going on in the world, and figure out how to apply for jobs, and reconnect with your family, and even just Colorado has some organizations out here where you can log into kind of like mini therapy sessions, I guess, and talk with obviously you have to get it approved, but it's nice that they do let us. They haven't stayed stuck in the past in regards to technology.
So what's next for Ashley? I mean, now you go to home confinement. So what does that look like?
So I have an ankle monitor put on. I actually have one on now. It's GPS enabled.
You have an ankle monitor?
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, you're in the halfway house being monitored by the halfway house, head counted every hour, and you have an ankle. Does everyone have an ankle bracelet on?
A lot of people do. Yeah.
For what purpose if you're there and they're monitoring you?
I think so the second time I got in trouble, I was off location. So I had stopped at like a park before I went home from work. So, so they felt like I was trying to escape.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So, and it was during that period of time I just talked about where I was having a lot of trouble processing everything that was going on with me. So, I had finished work early. It was a super nice day outside. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go sit and like listen to a podcast and clear my head before I go back there. And, they can take your phone and search it at any time, so, which they do randomly. And so when they took my phone to search it, they went into my location history and they found that I had been at a park. So I got an ankle monitor put on me for that. Wow. Yeah.
And the expense of the ankle monitor, who pays that? Do you pay that or do they?
So right now, actually, all that is waived because of COVID. So I haven't had to pay subsistence or anything since I've been here. But you do have, if they were charging subsistence, it's 25% of every paycheck.
Wow.
And
that's a lot.
Capped. It's capped at like $700 a month, I think. But even then, you can find an apartment, a way nice placer than this for that much a month. So I'm lucky that I have not had to pay subsistence, so I could try to save up some money before I move out on my own. But
now you're going out on your own and you still have your ankle monitor for how long?
So I'll have it up until my release date of May 25th. So, and then the way it works for home confinement is that you have to have a landline. So I had to have a landline installed at $40 a month, another expense. So, because even though you have the GPS on and they can see where you are, they have to be able to call and verify that you're at home.
Cell phone.
Yeah, I have a cell phone. Yeah.
They can look at the GPS, know you're home, but they still need to call on a landline to know you're home.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense to me.
Right. Right. Because I love paying $40 a month for
Yeah,
a
that's
line.
no common sense to that to me.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting to me because there are other women that I talk to who left Alderson around the same time as me, and they didn't have to have a landline. One of them went home on home confinement, didn't even have an ankle monitor.
Yeah, I do
So
know
it's
it's different
so
for everyone.
it's different everywhere. Like I don't understand why there's not one uniform system. Like I think in Maryland or something, there's an app where your probation officer or the halfway house can track where you are.
Yeah,
So
Connecticut.
it's just crazy that they're relying on these ankle monitors and, landlines and it's different everywhere. It's just, I don't understand.
Plug yourself in, right? You have to charge that ankle monitor.
Yes. Yeah, I do. And, I actually just got a new one put on today because the old one I had, you had to plug it in overnight. And so, I'd have this cord like wrapped around my legs and like I would unplug it in the middle of the night and it would only hold like an 8 to 10 hour charge. So the new ones that they gave us, it'll hold a charge for up to 60 hours. So and the way you charge it is you like slip this little like beacon thing over the top of it to charge. So it's way nicer than the other one. But again, you have the ability to track me on my phone at all times. How large is
this thing? Can you show us? Is there a
yeah?
See.
Can you see it?
Wow, it's big.
Yeah, this is smaller. This is my hand. So, yeah, this is smaller than the other one I had on too. Yeah.
So when you're at work, you can't hide that.
No, I mean, I bought bootcut jeans, but the people I work with are all super understanding. They're not judgmental, and it's a smaller like co-working space. So I wear it. I rock the ankle monitor. Like, my situation is what it is. I feel like that's part of the process is owning up to your past. And, if someone doesn't want to talk to me because I have an ankle monitor on and they have some preconceived notion of me, then I don't need you to be fake nice to me. I don't need you in my life.
Well, it sounds like
I only want people around.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, because that was part of why I got into trouble. I had this like need to always want to please people, and I still find myself sometimes doing that. If I'm like, down or, having a bad day, I don't like knowing people are mad at me. But, when we first met, like I was so ashamed of my crime and I'm certainly not proud of it. But I also know I have done everything that I can to pay my victims back because it is the right thing to do. I don't need a gold star for that. I don't need to say someone to tell me good job. I genuinely wanted to pay my victims back because I knew what I did was a shitty thing.
Yeah.
And to this date, I think I've paid back close to like 80 or 90% of what I stole, which was also part of the reason I got out of prison so early. And my motion was approved because they said they had never really seen, a white collar criminal pay back over 50% of what they stole even before they were sentenced. So
it's true.
And
institutions are often so large.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I want to pay them back and, I'm completely starting over. But like I said, I don't need a gold star for doing that. I want to do that,
well, I'm impressed. I'm impressed because you're taking such responsibility to everything and you're owning up to it. And now you're moving on to your own place. And that's gotta kind of be scary in a way. I mean, when you left, you had a home, you had a house with a husband, and you had a dog, right? And now you're going two dogs, and now you're going to an apartment and you're going to be by yourself and starting a whole new chapter. And that's got to be scary right there.
Yeah. And that is, when I first got back, I felt like I didn't belong anywhere, because I didn't have a home to go to. My sister lives out here. So, I know she's here, like if I ever needed her for something, but, I didn't have a place of my own. I felt very alone and like, well, what do I do? And, I don't want to say that this place became my home because that, I'm not comfortable here, nor will I ever be comfortable here. But, at least I knew I had a place to come back to. And, I like the staff a lot of the security staff that works here, for the most of them, treat you with respect and they'll sit there and talk to you and, get to know you as a person. And, they don't care about what your crime was. But yeah, it is.
I felt that in prison too. In Danbury, most of the correctional officers really did treat us with respect. It was the administrative staff and the management staff that treated, I think, financial crime. I hate the word white collar because it's so, but I mean, you commit a financial crime, you commit a drug crime, you commit whatever your crime is. But I feel almost that women who, or I can only speak for women because it was my experience, but women who commit financial crimes mostly all have the same issues. Like you said, people pleasing, thinking you're not enough, you're less than, always having to prove yourself, and you go above and beyond, and you just get yourself into this self-destructive mode. And you're so beat down when you finally get to prison, and then you're beat down even more because you should have known better. You're educated. You have a family. You have a home. You should have known better. Shame on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way you're, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there were, I remember one of the things you said to me, you were like, you will sleep the best you've ever slept your first night in prison. And I slept like a rock because it was like everything was over. And I remember when we were sitting at breakfast, like I don't think I had to be there until 2:00, and it was like noon, and I was like, let's just go. Like, let's just get it over with. Like, I just want to go and be done. And I slept so good that first night. And, you do, like, that was one thing about prison. No one judged you for your crime. No one cared. Of course they all want to know, how long you have, if it's financial, they love to know how much money you stole.
If you have it buried somewhere.
Yes. I got asked that. I was like, no, I do not have it buried anywhere. But, yeah, you're right. Like a lot of the women that I met, that had crimes similar to mine, we all had the same issues, wanting to please people, wanting to make sure other people were taken care of, and low self-esteem. That is one thing that I struggle with, is low self-esteem, and going through this process has not helped that, because you do come across people, and I came across officers in prison who made you feel like a piece of shit. And I've come across people here that work in the halfway house that make you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I do let it get to me, but I just have to stop and say, you know what, I know I'm more than my crime. I've done everything I can to make things right, and I'm trying to be better. And, I'm going to have bad days. And of course I might slip into old patterns of thinking every now and again, but, it's just about looking at how far I've come in such a short time, because I haven't even really been out of prison in a year, for a year. So, just thinking about how far I have come is a big part of just making sure I can keep putting one foot in front of the other. But, even going to prison, that was when I actually had to confront all the bad things about myself.
It's hard. I did it. It's hard.
Really hard, it was, and, I worked with a therapist before I left to go to prison, and, he and I touched on a lot of stuff that helped me be able to really acknowledge and address those issues when I was in prison.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of stuff about myself that I don't like, that I didn't like, and I'm still trying to change, and it's not going to happen overnight, but, I'm just doing the best I can at this point.
Thrown there, and you actually can go two ways. You can use that opportunity to really look in a mirror and say, okay, how did I end up here? And I know you did, because we talked through email, and you really did look at yourself hard. And I know I did too. And when you come home, you're now faced with all these other obstacles, and you got to go and you got to get a job now. And it's not like this felony is going to go away anytime soon, forever. Yeah. So you have this life sentence that has different sections. I try and break it down into sections. So this is, the section that's prison. This is the section that's halfway. Now you're the section that's going to go into home confinement. Then after that, you're going to hit another transition. How do you really go back into the world when people start Googling you and people want to know who you are, and you're not in that comfortable zone of being with like people that are in the same situation as you anymore.
Yeah. I mean, God, I wish the internet had never been invented sometimes, because I mean, you Google my name and you get a whole treasure trove of articles about me. And, it is what it is. I can't change that. I know there are initiatives in place. Like, I think I shared an article with you in like Boston, like the newspapers and, and other, organizations are working to try to remove like the tags from people's names and articles. And so to give them a fair chance, because, if someone hasn't taken the time to know me and they just Google my name, of course, they're going to think I'm a terrible person. They're going to think I'm greedy. They're going to think I'm selfish. They're going to think I'm a piece of shit. But I know I'm not.
Right.
And, that's super frustrating that, people are just going to base their opinion of me on a Google search.
Well, because a true second chance, you wouldn't have that.
Right.
So,
right.
Society says we want to give ex-offenders this true second chance, the Second Chance Act. But is it really a second chance? It really isn't, because no matter what, if they do a background check, you're coming up. And you're very lucky, because there's so few employers that will hire somebody with a felony on their background.
Yeah, I got very, very, very lucky in finding this marketing company. It's a group of women. It was founded by a woman. There's only 5 of us that work there, all women. And on my final interview, I told her about my situation, and she literally didn't even blink an eye. I actually found out, after working there a couple of weeks, he had gone to there's a women's correctional facility like right down the street actually from our office. And she and actually a client of ours had gone to speak to the women there about, how to rebuild your life, how to, take an inward look at yourself and know that you're capable of being more than just your situation. So I was very, very lucky to have found this company.
You're very talented too. Very talented. I'll talk to you a little bit here. Ashley has done a lot of work on our website, and we switched hosting companies, and she took care of it all. And so if you look at www.evolutionreentry.com, that's Ashley's work, and she's wonderful for what she does. So give yourself credit too.
Well, thank you.
Are very talented.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's true. They were able to look at my professional past and say, what can she bring to this organization, rather than just looking at my personal past and the mistakes that I've made. And I wish there were more employers out there like that, hopefully within time. But, you're right. It's not really a true second chance, as long as someone can Google your name and they come up with 50 different articles about you and your crime.
It's true.
So, and I can say till I'm blue in the face, but you get a tax credit if you hire me. Here I come, I bring my tax credit. But, carry
that sign around you, just as tax credit.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. But
well, I think
I'm very lucky.
Places. I really do. I think you're going places. And the one major piece to why you're going to be okay is your transparency. I think that a lot of women come home and they want to forget and just put it aside. And because of the internet and this lack of second chance that you get, it's very hard to do that. And I think that's why I didn't. I decided that I was just going to embrace my past and learn from it and try and help others understand where people who make mistakes come from. That you are not your past. You're just not.
Yeah, I agree. I think you and I have that same mentality. Yeah. Like, I cannot change the past. Of course I wish I could, but I can't. So this whole process is a part of me now. And, it's changed me for the better, I think. So, I just have to embrace it, because I can't change anything about it.
Right.
My background is really, yeah. And, my background is really heavy in the lobbying world, actually. So, eventually down the road, I'd love to get into working with a lobbying organization that's working on criminal justice reform, because I just met so many women in prison who, have never been afforded the opportunities that I was lucky that my parents gave me. And I'm so lucky that my parents, gave me an access to a great education and always supported me in everything that I wanted to do. I met so many women who did not have that opportunity, that had to turn to selling drugs or selling guns just to put food on the freaking table for their
Yeah.
kids. So it's like, and because they were trying to provide just in a different way than, I did, or you did, or, any of the women in our group, they're stuck with that for the rest of their lives, no matter how many changes, they've made to themselves personally. So, and again, just being stuck here in this halfway house for as long as I have, and, really experiencing what the system does to people. It's made me, I guess it's kind of
so important. I just had a conversation with one of the women. We have a support group, in case anybody doesn't know. We've been talking about that a little bit. And in our support group, somebody told me that they were worried about me because I was burning the candle at both ends and I was helping too many people and I needed to bail. And I thought, well, that's a cop out. No, I don't need to bail. This is an important topic. And I think that not enough women come out of that shell that they're in because they're so afraid of the transparency. And it's important. It's an important topic. And I commend you. I really do, because it's hard to get women to come on the show and knowing that people are going to watch it. And it needs to be watched. It needs to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, just like how you were such a resource and a help for me, like I want to be that for other women, because, that is what's, I guess, kind of special about being in prison, is that these women you meet, you have a connection with for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you do.
Because you went through such a traumatic and growing experience together. Like, I can talk to my best friends back in Maryland and DC all day long about what prison is like, but they're never going to really understand.
Right.
They're not going to understand what it's like to wear those horrendous khaki uniforms and have your shirt tucked in all the time.
Or those
you have to wear. God, So, there's this community of women now that, that bond is.
It is a huge bond. And I often feel that, I say it quite to my husband a lot, that I feel like I'm this square trying to fit in this circle, where my friends who are dear, and none of them judge me and they stuck by me, but they don't understand. And I feel like I don't fit in often because my mind is always on women in prison or criminal justice reform. And I sleep it and I eat it, and I'm in school getting my degree in criminal justice. And it forever changed me. What I experienced forever changed me. And the women that I see that are going through it has forever changed me, all of you, because there's really no common sense to a lot of it. There's no common sense how you were put in a halfway house, but I have so many other women that I work with that went right to home confinement, or some that are still in prison that didn't get released at all and have a husband, a home, a job, and they're still in a camp. And it's just different in every single camp, all depending on the warden and the administrative staff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think, like I said, you and I are so similar in that regards. Like, I just, something needs to change. Something needs to change. And if I feel like, I went through this, I got caught for a reason. I went through this whole experience for a reason. This is like a teaching moment, what besides learning things about myself and figuring out things about myself, how can I help women behind me that are going to make the same mistakes that I made? Right. Because, it's just, I can sit here and say it's not fair and, complain about the fact that I got sentenced to 27 months, even though I had paid so much money back. I still committed a federal crime. I still needed to be punished. But, there's just certain parts of this whole process that, wear you down and make you feel worthless. And it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't, my judge said that she felt prison was rehabilitative, and I call bullshit on that. It's not rehabilitative. It's punishment. It's punishment. You know, there's nothing I saw, even in just, the little less than a year I was there, I saw women come back multiple times because, they go back out and they start using again, because nothing about prison is helpful. Nothing.
Yeah.
You're taking these women away from their family, from their kids. You're not doing anything. You say you have these programs in place, and, there are women that benefit from like the RDAP programs and the non-res programs, of course. But, that still doesn't really prepare you for the slap in the face that the real world is when you get back with the stressors that you left when you went to prison. They're still there waiting for you when you get out, especially if you don't have anyone to support you and be around you. You could slip back into your old ways. And, that's why it's so important for me to, want to be a resource for women so they feel like they have someone there. I felt, my relationship with my ex is not great anymore. And, he was the only person that I really kind of had in prison besides you. Like if I didn't have you, I would have only had maybe one or two other people to talk to. And, going through this process, you need a good support system. So
you really do.
I'm grateful for people like you to have created, programs and groups like you have to help women like me and women that are going to be making mistakes.
I'm excited that you're going to join our group and be one of those women who help other women, because you have so much to give back. You really do. You've really done the work, and you're really a wonderful person. I love talking to you. I love watching you grow, and I am excited to see what's next for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you got to come back and back on the show when we're huge and big and we have 1 million followers.
Exactly.
Right now, the 33 people that follow us.
That's fine.
We're at least hitting those 33 people.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I am so excited that you are here, and even from a halfway house, you took the time out. There's very few people that would do that, so thank you. And the time difference too. What time is it where you are?
It's almost 8. So that means it's almost 10 where you are.
10. I know. This is what I mean. Where people are saying I'm burning the candles, 10 o'clock.
Yes.
I'm ready to have another conversation with someone. So you are going to come back again, and we will see a lot more of you. Check out evolutionreentry.com. And if people want to talk to you, Ashley, how do they get in touch with you?
They can send me an email, or, if they want to contact you directly, I'm more than fine with you giving them my contact information. I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book at this point.
criminaljusticecafe@gmail.com. If you want to talk to Ashley, she'd be more than happy. Any woman out there who wants to talk to either one of us, please reach out, because you really do need that support. And we have a lot of women that are there for you. So until next week, we will see you and have a great week. Bye.